In this exercise, we'll assign a texture to both the faces of the letters and to the extruded sides. And I'm going to double-click on a thumbnail for my 3D layer to bring up the 3D panel. And notice what we have here. We have a handful of default lights, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off Infinite Light 2 as well as Infinite Light 3 so that we can keep our lighting as straightforward as possible. And I'm going to click on Infinite Light 1 and up the intensity to 1.2 so that we have brighter letters to work with. And I'm also going to change my shadows to a softness value of 25%, even though so far we don't have any shadows, but the future shadows will be nice and soft. Having done that, I'm going to go ahead and click on 3D, and that is the 3D mesh that we just got done generating inside of Repose. And notice that we have a list of materials. We're going to discuss materials in more detail in a later chapter, but for now, note that they convey attributes such as color and surface variation, shine, gloss, reflectivity, and texture, which is what we're about to apply. Now, technically speaking, there are no materials applied so far. We just have a color of white, and that's it. So why this list of 5 materials? Well, those are the 5 possible faces onto which we might need to wrap materials on this 3D object. The front inflation is the front surface of the letters. Back here at the bottom, the back inflation is the back of the letters, which we can't see currently. We also have a potential front bevel and back bevel, which are non-existent at this point because I set the bevel values to 0. And then we've got the extruded sides. So all we need to change is the front inflation and the extrusion. So I'm going to click on the front inflation, then drop down here to this little page icon to the right of the word diffuse, click on it, and then choose load texture. Then navigate to the O2 Repose folder, click on papertexture.jpg and open it up. And that will go ahead and assign the paper texture to the letters. We want to do the same for extrusion. So if I clicked on the extrusion material, clicked on the page icon, I could choose load texture, but if I do, Photoshop gives me this bewildering alert message in which it essentially says, yes, I'm well aware of that texture. It's embedded into the file, and I'll just go ahead and use that if that's okay by you, buddy. It'd be nice if instead of doing that, it would actually list the texture so I could select it. But here's the better way to go. We've got this great little tool here called the Material Drop Tool. Go ahead and click on it to make it active. And then move the cursor out into the image window, press and hold the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac to get the eyedropper, and click on the face of one of the letters to lift that surface texture. Then go ahead and release Alt or Option, move the cursor over an extruded side, and you'll see all of the sides light up, and then click inside of that extruded edge. At this point, we're not going to see much in the way of texture along the extruded sides, because the texture is getting compressed. It's getting scaled inside those sides. That's not what we want. So go ahead and click on 3D Mesh in order to select it. And what we need to do is revisit Repose. And you can do that in 2 ways. Either go up to the 3D menu, choose Repose, and then choose Edit in Repose. Or the other option is when a 3D mesh that was created in Repose is selected, you can drop down to this little R icon down here near the bottom of the 3D panel and click on it. Then, inside the Repose dialog box, we want to adjust this texture setting. Right now, it's set to scale, which goes ahead and disproportionately scales the texture inside the side. So it scales the texture to fit as needed. You can also work with fill, which is another scaling option. However, it's closer to a proportional scaling. What it does, it increases the smallest dimension of the texture to fit the largest dimension of the 3D object. But what we want is tile. Tile doesn't do any scaling. If it runs out of the texture, it repeats the texture. But our texture is every bit as big as the image, so this is perfect. So I'll go ahead and select tile and then click OK, and the job is done. And that is how you apply textures to the various sides of an extruded object here inside Photoshop.